Welcome to Folkscape Live, where I'm joined today by Doran and Janice Burns, John and Janice, here in the Sage in Gateshead, not Newcastle. Welcome to both of you. Thank you both very much for coming and joining us here.
Thank you.
When did you two start playing together?
It was about 6 years ago, I think we started playing together. We met just across the river on the Newcastle folk degree at Newcastle University. And so we'd walk over one day every week. Tuesdays, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was.
I think it was Tuesdays.
Yeah.
We'd come here to Sage Gateshead and practice downstairs.
And you're both practiced musicians in your own right before, I mean, you know, formal higher education or anything like that. You both play fantastically.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice. I'm a bit of an advocate for the late starter. So I did a little bit of music. I did a bit of music as a teenager. I was lucky enough to get some music lessons through high school. I played the piano, and I just didn't really ever gel with that kind of classical training. It didn't rubbish at reading music, and yeah, so I didn't really gel with it. And it wasn't till I was in my 20s I found mandolin and folk music. I think I was about 23, and got really into it, worked really hard, and then thought, well, I'm going to quit my job and go and study folk music.
But a brave decision, but one that's clearly paid off massively.
Yeah, a bit of a mental decision, but
well, they
I'm
all
glad
are.
I did it.
And how about you, John? Have you been reading the dots since you were a kid, or is this new to you?
No, I mean, I wasn't so good at the classical side of things as well, but I started when I was probably about 7 years old, I think, playing the violin, and I'd scrape through the beginner violin books, and then my sort of teachers would despair and send me home. But it turned out that I had, I think I had a reasonable musical ear, and so I'd go home, get the violin out, and just start sort of playing a lot of the records that my dad had, sort of old Doran records and stuff like that. And that's when my parents thought actually he might have something there. And so I started playing for Morris dancing, which is a bit of a, as you do when you live in, when you grow up in Gloucestershire in the Cotswolds, like. So I started playing for the local side, and then it sort of snowballed from there, really. And
you met and when you were both studying for a folk degree. Rather heartening that that's possible.
Yeah.
And what is it about folk that's so attractive? Why that genre?
I don't know. Like, for me, I really don't know what it was that drew me to it. It was just that was the one that sat really well with me. I just connected with it more than I'd connected with any other genre in the past. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Sometimes something just grabs you and you don't know why.
And you're not tempted by some crazy hectic jazz?
yeah, maybe one day I might be a late starter on jazz. This might just be the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're interested in the history of folk music. Folk music is always a sort of a cultural history. It's as well as being, you know, beautiful and a pleasure. It's a document in its own right. So how do you choose these tunes, these songs that you play?
I think both of us spend a lot of time with our nose in an archive or a book. So yeah, obviously when you've got thousands and thousands of songs at your fingertips, it's really hard to choose. Might sound really, really basic, but if it's got a really good melody, that's the first thing that attracts me. But I'm really picky about the words. Obviously some of these songs are really, really old, and there are stories that are timeless, that are always going to be relatable to everyone, because it's just human nature, isn't it? All these, old stories. And then there's some that maybe sing about things that I don't really think should be sung about anymore. Because,
Well,
ideas
that's
change.
interesting. I mean, there's sort of timeless ones, you know, boy meets girl, girl breaks boy's heart is
We do a lot of them.
is of course timeless. But so what are the subjects that neither of you you'd avoid?
Well, it's just the attitudes change, don't they? And things that are acceptable to talk about, sing about, change.
Well, I mean, your attitudes do change, and there are some in the tradition, some pretty horrible ideas
there's
expressed,
some-
but that's still part of the history. That's still part of it.
Yeah.
Janice, I'm going to be deliberately provocative here.
Okay, great.
And suggest to you that, or ask you, why is it that so much Scottish folk music, particularly, is about how dreadfully unfair it is to lose battles to the English?
Brilliant.
I'm glad I'm not part of this question.
Okay, that's a good question. Maybe because it is.
I wouldn't deny it. It is a bit
No one
unfair.
likes to lose. No one likes to be the wee man.
You're from different parts of the country. Scotland has its own fascinating tradition, of course, but so does the south of England and Gloucestershire and South West particularly.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a real a hub back in the day for collectors in the turn of the century. As you know, Cecil Sharp and all his ilk came down to Gloucestershire and to the town that I grew up in specifically as well. I grew up in a town called Chipping Camden, and it's a nice little historical market town.
It's lovely. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's all right. And he rode down on his bicycle a few times and up the hill to Stow on the Wold and all that kind of place, and collected quite a few really interesting songs and songs that have even sort of travelled from Scotland as well. There was one that I sent Janice the other day called Earl Richard, which made its way down to Camden somehow. And so yeah, it's got a rich history because of that. I'm going to say it's not got the most exciting folk scene now. My dad would kill me for saying that, but it's quite an aging town. It's quite old, as you can imagine, with quite a picturesque town. It's quite it's quite difficult to live there if you.
Very expensive.
Yeah, especially if you're a young musician. So it's not got a great scene in the north of Gloucestershire, but it's got a good tradition. So.
Let's try to enthuse the young then by having a little bit of a rather beautiful film you made. I think this is called The Corncrake.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a little look at that.
First of all, was handsome, young and fair. We had I spent some merry nights way on the banks of Ayr. We had I spent some merry nights way on we Barney Rose. Why the echo mows the Corncrake among the winning hours. We
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much for that. Difficult film to make there. Where on earth were you? Middle of nowhere.
We were in the Yorkshire Moors, and we'd planned actually, we had this great plan. So the person that filmed it for us, someone called Benjamin Potton, and we'd planned to pick him up from a folk festival that he was at, travel up to the Lake District.
That's
It
right.
was in Coniston, I think, we were going to do this great drone film. And we were just driving through the moors. What festival was he at?
Oh, was that Whitby?
Was that Whitby?
So I think we went down
Yeah.
to the Lake District. I think we were still quite north, yeah.
Yeah, and we started driving up. And then we went, this is nice.
just pulled over in a lay-by and did it. It was fine, yeah, it was great.
It was great.
Well, I wish all filming was that easy. That sounds very,
Yeah.
very
It
simple.
was actually quite simple. It didn't take too long for us, did
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Stood in a field, sang the song.
You're in a great tradition. Folk music, by definition, is a traditional, is in a tradition, but you are in a sort of a modern tradition as well, in that there are all sorts of you don't have to go back to the 17th century, or the peasants' revolt or whatever it is. Your voice particularly reminds me. I hope this is polite to say this, but you reminds me of a woman called Maddie Pryor.
That's very,
Nice.
very polite. Thank
Well,
you.
I hope so. And
Big,
it's-
big
'cause
massive compliment.
Absolutely beautiful. But are you aware that you're sort of in that more recent tradition of folk music in Britain?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can't help picking up a lot of your techniques and skills and styles from the revivalists like Maddie Pryor and like
Yeah.
June Tabor and all that kind of lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't help but absorb what you listen to. So, and like these are all people that we've spent a lot of time listening to. So,
Well, you're carrying on that enthusiasm. I know you're touring a bit. Can't go into, but if people want to find out where you're touring, where you're gigging, how can they find out? How can they learn?
so we have a website. It's www.janandjohn.com, and it's John spelt Jon. And that's got all of our tour dates on it. Yeah, so you can find it all there.
And have you got any music that people can buy? How's it available?
Yeah, you can get it everywhere. If you look up our names, Janice Burns and John Doran, yeah, you'll find it on Bandcamp is the main one we sell it on, but I think it's also being distributed through everything, sort of Amazon and all your main shops, and then there's Apple Music and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you look us up somewhere, we'll be on the internet and you can find a buy button somewhere.
And is it a competitive market? Do you think the folk scene is thriving, is full of energy at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah. It's funny because, I mean, everyone that I suppose in another line of work you would be competing with, they're your colleagues as well. So it doesn't feel competitive as such, but I guess you are every year when you're applying for festivals and stuff. You're essentially competing with all your friends.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing for us who like listening to it, I suppose, because
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And lots of new stuff coming through because of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great.
Jan and John, thank you very much. And now I think you're going to play a little something for us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
One fine winter's morning, my horn I did blow to the green hills of Kildare, for hours did go. We gathered our dogs and circled around, for who loves the sport more than the boys of the town? And when we arrived, they were all standing there. We set off for the fields, all in search of the hare. We didn't get far till someone gave a cheer. Over high hills and valleys, that sweet who stood still. As we flew o'er the hills, 'twas a beautiful sight. There were dogs black and yellow, there were dogs black and white. She took the black bank for to try them once more. It was her last look at the hills of Greenmore.
In a field of wheat stubble, that sweet puss did lie, and Rory and Charmer they did pass her by. And there where we stood at the foot of the brae, oh, we heard the last words that sweet puss did say. Oh, no more the green hills of Kildare I roam, nor skip through the fields all in sport or in fun, nor hear the loud horn your toner does play. I'll go back to my den by the clear light of day. You may blame McMahon for killing the hare. He's been at his old capers this many's the year. Well, on Saturdays and Sundays he'll never give up, with a pack of strange dogs round the hills of Greenmoor. Lovely. As I roved out on a bright May morning to view the meadows and flowers gay, who should I spy but my own true love, as she sat under yon willow tree. I took off my hat and I did salute her. I did salute her courageously. When she turned around, well, the tears fell from her, saying, "False young man, you have ruined me." A diamond ring I owned and gave you, a diamond ring to wear on your right hand, but the vow you made, you went and broke it, and married the lassie that had the land. If I married the lassie that had the land, my love, it's that I ruined till the day I die. When misfortune falls, no man can shine. I was blindfolded on the night. Now at nights when I go to my bed of slumber, the thoughts of my true love run in my mind. When I turn around to embrace my darling, instead of gold it's brass I find. Now I wish the Queen would call back her army from the West Indies, America and Spain, and every man to his wedded true love, in hopes that you and I will meet
getting